Adam Sandler is really a conundrum. He uses his clout and ability to make money on nearly any project he does, no matter how lazy and insipid. Popcorn stuffers will eat him up, and product placement lets him make the cheapest looking pieces of garbage and cash in for him and his friends. If you haven't seen Red Letter Media's two-part investigation on Jack and Jill, you'll see what a grifter he can be. And yes, I call it an investigation. It really is a great piece of journalism.
You want a piece of me? I don't want a piece of you. I want the whole thing! Oh!
But what's really infuriating about Adam Sandler isn't that he makes garbage that people stupidly shell out money to see, which he cashes in on. Sure, that borders on fraud and all, but really, studios have been doing that to us since movie theaters have existed. At least Sandler takes care of the people that work on the movies. No, what really makes me angry is that Sandler does have talent. While I'm not a huge fan of Uncut Gems, I can see he's doing a solid job. Though we really need to calm down on that whole robbed of an Oscar nomination talk.
I disagree.
Funny People and Reign Over Me were also solid acting turns by Sandler. We could debate the writing or quality of these movies, but not Sandler's work in them. To waste decent talent on garbage like Pixels, Grown Ups, and the horrifying That's My Boy makes me shake my head and grab another bottle of rum. Nearing the end of his original rise to stardom, where he could do little wrong thanks to hits like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, The Wedding Singer, The Water Boy, and Big Daddy, Sandler decided to team up with Paul Thomas Anderson in a movie that was completely different than anything he had done before. So let's take a look at arguably Adam Sandler's best film, Punch Drunk Love. Paul Thomas Anderson was then mostly known for Boogie Nights. While Hard Eight and Magnolia were well received by critics, only Boogie Nights was a true box office success. And unlike those other three movies, Anderson wanted to do something that was shorter and more positive. It's a fairly simple story, but it's the artistry that lets you find new layers every time you watch. Sandler plays Barry Egan. Barry is a single man who owns a company that markets themed toilet plungers and other novelty items. He has 7 overbearing sisters who ridicule and emotionally abuse him regularly. He leads a lonely life, punctuated by fits of rage and social anxiety.
What exactly is wrong?
I don't know if there is anything wrong because I don't know how other people are. I sometimes cry a lot for no reason.
Processing his emotions is something he's never learned. One day, he witnesses an inexplicable car accident, picks up an abandoned harmonium from the street, and encounters Lena Leonard, a co-worker for one of his sisters, Elizabeth. Lena had orchestrated this meeting after seeing him in a family picture belonging to Elizabeth. Barry goes to his sister's birthday party, where the rest of his sisters ridicule him.
Calling you gay, and you got so mad you threw the hammer through the sliding glass door. You remember?
I don't remember that.
Yes, you do. You're calling you gay boy, and you got so mad.
They bring up the time they would call him gay boy until he got mad. They bring up an incident where he was younger when he threw a hammer through a sliding glass window. He finally reacts angrily, shattering his sister's windows. Coping with his loneliness, Barry calls a phone sex line, but the operator attempts to extort money and sends her 4 henchmen who are brothers to collect.
This is Barry.
Hey, baby, I guess we got disconnected before.
We got disconnect? How did you get this number? You're calling me at work?
You canceled your credit card. I need you not to cancel your credit card, and I need you to up your limit.
So, I have $500. That's maximum. That's what I can take.
Where the fuck are you going? We know where you live.
Lena manages to talk Barry into a date, and it goes quite well. Barry is very intrigued. However, she mentions some of the things that his sisters told her, which triggers his anxiety and causes him to tear up a bathroom. After Lena leaves for Hawaii on a business trip, Barry decides to follow her. He decides to take advantage of a promotion with Pudding to get free frequent flyer miles, but he is crestfallen to find out that he has to wait 6 to 8 weeks to redeem them. He decides to go anyway. Lena is overjoyed to see Barry. The romance develops further, and Barry finally feels some relief from the emotional isolation he has endured. After they return home, the 4 brothers ram their car into Barry's, leaving Lena mildly injured. With his newfound freedom from loneliness and jeopardy, a surprisingly aggressive and poised Barry adeptly fights off all 4 of the goons in a matter of seconds, using a tire iron. Wanting to make sure Lena is safe, Barry leaves her at the hospital and tries to end the harassment by calling the phone sex line back and speaking to the supervisor, who turns out to be Dean Trumbull, owner of a mattress store in Provo, Utah. There, Barry confronts Dean face to face.
So you tell me that's that before I beat the hell from you. I have so much strength in me, you have no idea. I have a love in my life.
Barry returns to Lena's apartment and tells her everything about the phone sex episode, Dean's goons, and begs her for forgiveness, pledging his loyalty and to use his frequent flyer miles to accompany her on all future business trips in just 6 to 8 weeks. She was upset he left the hospital, but eventually agrees, and they embrace happily. Basically, Barry is a man trapped by his own anxiety and loneliness. He finds power in love he thought he could never have. He becomes open and honest. He finally takes control of his relationship with his sisters and anyone else who might stand in his way. So instead of talking to you about making of, the history of this movie and that sort of thing, I wanted to talk to you about the film itself and its true artistry. The joy of this film is in the color, the framing, and the sound. Barry is the lonely blue boy, as typified by his blue suit, but look closer. Depending on his emotional state, he'll have a different colored tie. Lena is typically wearing red, and so is Barry's tie when he meets her. Visual literacy is powerfully used in this film through color and sound. The bright colors in this film are both expressional and emotional. The role of color works on multiple levels of emotions. Like Plinkett says, you may not notice it, but your brain does. Visual and audio expression in Punch Drunk Love hits you on various levels. It's why some movies have endless repeat value, while others don't. Anderson uses a few specific colors to express emotions in them: blue, red, and white. Watch this film and note when these colors show up and what's happening in the scene. Blue is most prominent as Barry is the protagonist. It reflects Barry's loneliness. Barry is the sad blue boy in this story. It starts out showing how small he feels in the world, nearly disappearing into the wall. The rule of thirds is in full force in this opening shot. Barry all but disappears in a forced perspective angle. Aside from the color, he's hunched over, talking almost too quiet. He looks weak, at least emotionally. The lighting bleeds into darkness. We see he's lonely, shy, overlooked, small. This is a great opening shot that has so much emotional information and is very subtle in how it goes about it. We're showing pure sadness. In the shot, Barry is talking about the frequent flyer miles on the pudding. He's already making plans of escape. His sisters and his anxiety make him feel like he needs to escape, but he really can't escape himself. Later, the color blue is used in a lot of different ways. When he leaves Lena on their first date, all the exit signs are blue. At one point, he goes out the wrong door and the outside is bathed in blue. Blue is where Barry is, but it's also where he shouldn't be. When he's at his lowest and calls the phone sex line, even his tie is blue. Red is the most expressive and prominent color expression of Punch Drunk Love. It represents the most positive aspects of Barry's physical and emotional character. Red is freedom, opportunity, and ultimately happiness for Barry. Red is the color dress worn by Lena when they first meet and on their date, but it also acts as the color which leads or guides Barry to happiness. Red, which is typically used as an opposite of blue, is nearly always worn by Lena, and almost always lights the path Barry should go. When he goes to the grocery store, he's followed in parallel distance by a blurry woman in a red dress. When he decides to go to Hawaii to find her, a red truck passes by as if heralding his good choice. Even when he starts to make a bad decision, a red stop sign is there. And when he's at his most happy and hopeful, as he's shown dancing in the supermarket, his tie is red. This all starts out with a bang when a red car crashes in front of him spectacularly. Then a moment later, a red taxi drops off a harmonium on the street. These represent Lena and the sudden change coming to his life and what is available to him: harmony, love, happiness. Sudden and not without some damage to get there, but it's coming. Finally, there is white. This one color is a lot more complex. It's used with both colors sometimes to contrast either the red or the blue. Take his blue suit and white shirt. It expresses Barry's physical state or his isolation. Sometimes it seems to be engulfing him. Take that opening shot where Barry's physical state, isolation, blends in with his emotional state, loneliness. Isolation is white, loneliness is blue. When he completely loses it in the bathroom, he's surrounded by white, isolated but enraged and trapped. This motif of being trapped comes around again when he desperately tries to find Lena's apartment, and he's totally wrapped in white. Sometimes white light will only shine on Barry, isolating him in the frame. Some other colors you might notice are yellow and purple. Yellow probably most represents intensity. Could be happy, could be fear. When Barry first plays the harmonium, you can see it, but the best is during the parade in Hawaii. When Barry finally gets a hold of Lena's room after a comedic beat, the yellow light turns on in the phone booth. Even the parade goers cheer.
Lena! Hi, this is Barry Egan!
On the other hand, when the phone sex operator tries to extort money from Barry, his tie is yellow with colored dots. Chaos. When Lena visits Barry during this particularly chaotic moment, her dress is purple, red mixed with blue. You could see that as she's not certain of him quite yet, or that she really wants him mixed into her life. It's up to the viewer to decide. What a concept, to not have everything spelled out for you. Lens flare is amazing in this movie and not used as a cheap effect. Maybe this guy could get some tips from Paul. It's used as emotional expression. For instance, when Barry first meets Lena, She's bathed in light. The lens flare uses blue and red highlights respectively, pointing at each other. It's practically beckoning Barry towards Lena. Sound is also great in this movie. When the chaos starts in Barry's life, where Lena and his sister visit him while the phone sex line is extorting him and the business is having issues and the music gets this weird, chaotic, percussive rhythm, it perfectly gives you the frantic nature of Barry's emotional state. This is audio and visual anxiety. Entertain the Elk did a great job of showing how these elements of his life come crashing into each other. I put a link down below. Another great shot is when Barry finally meets Lena in Hawaii. He's overcome his sisters and his own fear. He still has to slay the dragon, the phone sex extortionist, but he has overcome his fear and his indecision. He makes a quest and he gets the girl. And even though he started in with an awkward handshake, he is rewarded with her embrace and kiss. And as they stand, framed beautifully in the doorway while the rest of the world passes them by, it's all but unnoticed until it's just them alone. Punch Drunk Love is one of my favorite modern fairy tale movies. It's a hero's journey where Barry has to conquer one challenge after another, and most of these are his own emotional failings. It's a beautiful movie, and even though there's some gritty moments and some tough emotional beats, it's also somehow one of the sweetest movies I've ever seen. Barry, in 6 to 8 weeks, will get all the frequent flyer miles he needs to follow Lena everywhere. But now he no longer needs to escape. He needs to fly. Give it a watch. Look at how nearly every scene tries to convey multiple symbols and themes. It's difficult to do this sort of thing correctly and not look like a film school reject. Paul Thomas Anderson does it masterfully. Of course, I would be remiss in not mentioning the song He Needs Me from Popeye is used in Punch Drunk Love to great effect. In both movies it works, but in this one, the emotions are so much more satisfying.
Until the day I die, I won't know why I knew he needed me. It could be fantasy.